Today, I'm going to be talking about the best ways for law firms to increase associate satisfaction and retention, which is obviously a very important topic, especially with the current market the way it is and the best talent hard to find and so forth. And these are really the main things that I've learned over the past few decades of working with associates that I speak to every day about why they're unhappy with their jobs, and also drawing up on a lot of research and other things that are very important in terms of what makes associates stick around. In the past few years past, law firms always expected a business to grow, and they didn't believe that it was very hard to continue expanding the pie. And a lot of the way that people think about law firms is after World War II, the United States really was expanding very rapidly. And most firms were always growing and the pie was growing. So it became very easy for people to become partner in firms. Most people made partner, and there wasn't a lot of lateral movement. And there was a lot of people expected very little attrition because there was an upward mobility. But now the legal market has become much more competitive, and all law firms aren't continually expanding. And there's a lot of expectations that have gone away. And because of that, it's become very difficult to hold on to associates, and it's a much different market than it was before. And lawyers have become more of a commodity, less individual, and money's become a lot more important in every firm, and more emphasis is on placed on attorneys bringing in business and billing lots of hours and so forth. And the service to clients and making people happy is no longer really the most important thing. It's about how much money associates are able to make for firms, and that's really created a much different environment for associates than it was in the past, where as before, people might have been a little bit much happier practicing law, and now it's associated with a lot of much more negativity than it was in the past. And so in order to make associates happy, what do you do in this new business environment? How do you keep people happy? And that's something that I think the most successful firms have to figure out, and have figured out to some extent, and others haven't. And law firms need to learn new ways to really make associates happy and feel happier in their work, and really enjoy their jobs. And even though their main purpose for most firms is to make money and leave, at the same time, there are ways to make associates happy. But the thing is that it's a very competitive market being an associate in most firms. I do this seminar every week on Thursdays, but on Wednesdays I do one, and it's primarily associates. And the thing I hear every week is just how unhappy people are. They're very stressed out. They're medicating themselves. They're seeing psychiatrists and just under a lot of stress, and often leaving. And it's because of the stress of the work and the money that's motivating people to push them hard, and the law firms to be competitive. And many attorneys, also associates, want to have significant others and spouses. They may want families, and they may want to even have outside interests. Some of the things that associates really want that I've found are they want to feel they're part of a team. They want to be recognized for things that they've done in the past many times, even if it's more they went to law school, and then they want to be given support for things that they want to do in the future. I think that's very important. They want to be thought of as investments, and where the firm is taking care of them and giving them education and giving them things to do both inside and outside the firm, and continually making them feel like they're advancing with more responsibility. They want to feel that the work is humane to some extent, and they do want good pay and hours and so forth. And also they want to feel like they're individuals and not just members of a team. So they want to be recognized for the kind of people that they are individually and their own style. And that's hard. And it's hard when you're running a big business to do that, and to give everyone interesting work, and to make everyone feel like an individual, and to recognize everyone. But these are the things that associates want. And many associates now especially want pro bono. They want to feel that there's good training, and they increasingly really value diversity of peers. And they want to know that they can go off and take time off if they need to. And so they want to feel that they're working for an employer that has compassion for them and will really understand them. And then they want a balance between their professional and personal goals. So they don't just want to feel economically successful. They want to feel personal satisfaction in their work. And these are the things that they want. And it's not to say that they get them, but this is, if you had to put together a list of what firms want, these are the things. And law firms that are able to integrate these things into their firm tend to do very well. So this is really if you to understand why associates leave firms. Attorneys leave firms for a bunch of different reasons. There's no consistent reason why they leave, but most of them are now mobile. They have a lot of ability to move to other places. And there used to be, believe it or not, and most people wouldn't even believe it because it's so long ago, but there used to be a stigma with leaving a firm or any type of job change. And that doesn't really exist anymore. And so now associates are willing to leave and if they feel that the firm isn't giving them what they want. And then they also see the firm, they feel like aren't going to be able to make partner. They may become less willing to stick around and more willing to move. And these are things that are important to associates, the upward mobility. And then the other thing is many times when they're given one thing is represented to them in terms of flexibility of their job or what's expected, or training and the responsibility, then that can make them unhappy. And it's very important, I think, when associates are interviewed and when they're brought on for them to understand that the reasons what the job is actually like. And one of the things that happens is there's always in many firms, there's periods of low morale. And so when there's periods of low morale, it's often a result of people leaving or bad news or various things. And when that happens, and you generally will get a lot of associates leaving. And it can be when groups of partners leave the firm. It can be when certain associates are let go, often for no reason. It can be if they're working with bad partners that they don't like, and bad partners for them or people that they feel are critical. It can be when they're put into assignments where they're unprepared to do the work, which is very common. It can be given assignments that they don't like. And sometimes it's just that the attorney doesn't belong in the practice of law. It's very common, especially with young associates to choose a firm that is just not the right fit for them. And maybe they're not even fit for practicing law. And then the other thing is when a law firm starts not letting people be more human, meaning they don't let them do pro bono or they don't let the attorneys be themselves or take time off or look the other way when they do, then the law firm will become seen as greedy, and that will make people leave. There's different components of what makes someone happy at work. And really, whatever the field is, that being satisfied at work depends on a bunch of different components. And these are some of the ones that I found are the most important to associates. So the first thing is the craftsmanship. And what that means is people want to see the fruits of their work. They don't just want to do work and not see the results of it. They want to see the fruits of what they do, and they want to feel responsible for creating the final work product. And they want to see the big picture. So they don't just want to be given like a discrete assignment and not know the overall whole of it. They want to feel that they're part of something and that they brought about something and did something. Explaining to associates, just a partner that takes a few minutes to explain how important an individual task is or what they're doing to the overall objective of the firm can be very useful and something that helps quite a bit in terms of the firm and the people, the associates being happy when they feel like they're part of something. The other thing is economic security. In exchange, for work, lawyers traditionally have made fairly good money compared to other professions. But now a lot of attorneys do not have economic security. There's been numerous layoffs in firms, and when law firms do mass layoffs when hours are low or when they let people go, often indiscriminately or recklessly, that makes people feel very insecure. And in law firms, if they can make, to the extent that they can, they need to make people feel like they're economically secure. And some of the best law firms actually resist ever letting people go. I've seen some law firms that will let people sit around for a year or more with just a couple hundred billable hours rather than get the reputation of someone that's laying people off and so forth or letting people go, because they need people there to feel secure. And not letting people go when you could often does buy that security as opposed to the opposite. The next thing is companionship. People want to feel part of a team. And that means having people around you that are willing to listen to you and that will take your side in various issues and allowing people to be included in different decisions and so forth. And law firms like that. They like when they feel supported by other people and they feel part of a group. And all humans do, but that's very important. And the law firms that are able to develop the esprit de corps among their associates and their partners tend to be much better off economically and have a lot less attrition. The next thing is that lawyers really do want to feel like they're doing something that matters. And just as they want to be able to know that the work that they're doing is meaningful to the ultimate result. The other thing is they want to feel that there's something important with their work and that they're doing something that's meaningful. And bonding with clients and feeling they're helping the clients and taking the client side is important. And candidates and attorneys all love to feel that they have some sort of relationship to the client, and that makes them feel much more positive. The other thing is just the development of skills and knowledge. And people want to get better at their jobs and take on more responsibility. And so attorneys that are able to do that, it's also very helpful. People that can get better and they're mentored, and people pointing out how they can become better attorneys, and it shows the commitment of the firm to the associates, and that's something that's very important. And a lot of firms will just stick people in different assignments and so forth and hope that they won't leave, but making people feel that they're developing and that you're constantly giving them new challenges and stuff is very important for associates. The other thing is learning to be creative and solve new problems, and it is important. A lot of firms will rotate associates, like Cravath for the longest time would rotate people to work with different partners and different groups to give them a sense of what it's like working in different places. And so that can be very helpful as well, like making people feel challenged and that there's always something new around the corner, as opposed to just pushing them in a place where they're bored. And if they're in a place where they're bored, they're likely to leave. And then the other thing is just to have the opportunity to have some sort of leadership or judgment and power. What that means is including associates in different matters and allowing associates to take on more and more responsibility and to interact more with clients. And then to the extent you can, allowing them to work on things that only partners may work on occasionally, to interact with clients on important things. Those are all very important as well. To the extent firms can do that, that's very important and gives leadership ability. And then the other thing, I think, I brought this up in a couple of other points, but really having the ability to identify with a greater mission. And when an associate feels that there's a purpose to what they're doing, and that everybody's on the same page in terms of doing the stuff for clients, and that there's goals, and that the law firm has goals, and that these goals are part of something more significant than whether or not it's what the firm is doing, and that you're helping the firm grow and become something, or you're helping the firm in a niche, is very important. And when people feel that, it really motivates them to want to be part of a firm, and can be a great thing. And then the next section is really how to create a desirable work environment. And really, this is, in my opinion, one of the more important points, because when there was a time when law firms and the attorneys in them were very much closer than they are today, when it was a less business-oriented environment where people were included in decisions, and where they knew they would be working together for years and years in the future, and they work closely with each other. And now it's not as much like that. And these are some policy ideas that I think can help law firms, and then also will, in my opinion, would add to law firms being more effective in terms of keeping people. And so the first thing is, I think that everybody should have a niche. So each associate in every firm should have a niche depending on their personality. And that means putting them in the correct practice area, or giving them the correct type of assignments. And so you should be able to read into what people enjoy, the type of work that they like, and then put them in the correct practice area. So an example is just like a problem-solving attorney may enjoy doing estate planning or workouts. And if someone is very extrovert or aggressive, they might like trial work, or introverted, more transactional work or research. So making sure that everybody has a niche, and then even within those niche, making sure that there's certain things that people are recommended for in terms of being very good at, and that they feel like that there's one thing that they're really special at in the firm, and then they can take some ownership of that. And a lot of times firms do very well when they're able to rotate. And this is something, again, that Cravath developed, and the first big law firm. And so a lot of the systems and things that they developed in the past, they've done because they've worked. And so assigning people to the task where they're most likely to succeed, and really making sure that each of them has a niche that they enjoy, where they get a lot of satisfaction out of the work. If somebody's enjoying doing something, they're typically very happy billing a lot of hours. But if they're not, then they may not be. Another thing is to have a mentor. I think that associates, there should be definitely always a formal mentoring system. So there's someone that the associate can turn to for advice that they feel like is their friend, and someone that's not necessarily supervising their work and can give them advice about what it's like dealing with different partners, and that not to worry about this, or maybe you should be more concerned about this. And often associates that are less outgoing don't find mentors. And it's very important to really have a formalized mentor program where that mentor takes an hour per month and goes out to lunch or sits down with the person and asks them how things are going, and make sure that they check in. And the more that happens, the better off the associate's going to be. And that also tends to prevent people from leaving. If they have someone they can turn to when they have issues to talk about and to get some perspective. And a lot of times a really good mentor will see things and problems that the associate may be having and making that could be head off, and we'll be able to tell them, because people can see things in others that other people can't necessarily see themselves. And so I think a mentor system is one of the most important things that law firms can really do to keep their associates around, and assigning good partners, the leaders of the firm, to also be mentors, and not just the people that may be doing it because there's nothing else for them to do. Another thing that I think is important is having a relaxed atmosphere in the firm, and that recognizes individuality and reflects the continuing interests of the associate as an individual. The law firm should balance the need for teamwork with a recognition of individuality. And the lifestyle means not just what outside of work hours, but also what's it like being at the office? What is it like being there? And how does it feel like being around the people there? And do people feel recognized as individuals? And I'll remember, it's a funny story, but when I was in law school, I worked at firms in New York, which were very formal and serious, and people would literally wear their suit coats at their desk at the firm I was at. And then when I came out to Los Angeles to interview after a clerkship, or during a clerkship, I noticed the first firm I interviewed with was Heller Ehrman, which is no longer around in Los Angeles. But it was very funny because a couple of the men were wearing like leather pants and had t-shirts on, and like tight t-shirts, and were with cigarettes on their desk. And I just couldn't believe how different it is. And so different firms will allow people to be different types of people, and having an open system where people can feel welcome with the kind of people they are is good. And then some people don't mind long work days, and some people don't. Things that offer attorneys the ability to communicate with each other, things that offer them the ability to deal with stress, things that when the law firm exhibits concern for the attorneys, that's important. And then really balancing the lifestyles of the attorney is very important. I mean, law firms actually can be much more profitable when people enjoy coming into work and working together, because then they're more likely to work harder, and a good atmosphere can be developed for that. Another thing is the importance of the meaningfulness of work. The law firms and attorneys should value the work that they're doing. And a lot of attorneys often don't feel that there's any value to the work, and that's not appreciated, or that's not part of something larger. So things need to be exciting, and there needs to be meaning and some purpose to the work. And bonuses can help, but also one of the things that's very useful is when partners and other people will publicly praise associates with emails or to the groups or other things, and telling them what a good job they do, because it makes people feel important and welcome. And that's public appreciation is very important, and does wonders to keep people around. People that don't feel appreciated leave. And then the other thing too is just allowing associates to interact and deal with clients. The associates can really, with cases that aren't that interesting and so forth, if they're able to be like one of the primary contacts or the primary contact with a client, they often will enjoy themselves much more. And so that can be a very good thing for associates as well. And many times, if there's just a lot of routine tasks, it's often a good idea to just that you can assign them to a paralegal, for example. The attorney doesn't need to do them, and allow the associate to feel some value that you're looking out for their time and want them to work on higher value tasks. Another thing that tends to be very helpful is to allow associates to participate in the firm. If associates are given a voice in law firm policies and management and so forth, then they feel like they're heard. And associates like to be part of committees where they can talk about things as a group, and where they feel other people are listening to them, and they like that. So that's another important thing, and just making them feel that they're part of the team and they have some sort of role in everything. And then another thing is to provide training and supervision with evaluations on a regular basis. People really do have training. They'd like to have feel that that the firm is looking out for them and as a family, and that it's sending people to different training programs. They like getting out of the office, or they are feeling that there's things there that they can do that are training them. People enjoy that. And they also like having internal training and lunches and so forth, and even Saturday training and retreats, and then also to give feedback. So people like feedback, and feedback, especially when the feedback is good, it makes them feel proud, and they will share it with their family and others. And if they need to get better, it will motivate them to improve. And some partners and other people may need to learn how to effectively give feedback, but feedback can be very useful. And then the other thing is just allowing for growth and realizing that different people will perform and grow at different speeds, and allowing associates to be involved in client development and giving them client contact and so forth can be very important. And even teaching associates rainmaking techniques. There are some firms out there that do a very good job with that. And as a consequence of teaching these techniques, are able to retain people. And because the associates feel like they're growing, and they take them out and they show them how to pitch different size companies. And they have meetings with other associates where they talk about how to pitch business and so forth. And some people have a natural ability to attract clients, and others have to learn, but it is a teachable skill. You don't have to be the most outgoing to be able to do it. And then also just making sure that there's always recognition when people do things well. And public recognition typically works almost as well many times as financial recognition. And then the other thing is just, I think that you obviously need billable hour requirements, making sure that to some extent that it's capped, or you can keep people not working all the time, can actually be very helpful, because people will leave when the hours are extreme. They'll always look for something better. You can't really fix that. And if the investment that you're making in an attorney may not be worth having them work due to excessive billing requirements. And this is something that happens all the time. I've been in situations and seen situations where people haven't had a day off in months, and 6 months or more. And eventually that can catch up with the firm, because the person will leave. And so allowing that person, or even requiring them not to kill themselves with these hours, can be very useful. And some people are just naturally inclined to work all the time, but you have to, if you can, do something to put a limit on that, because then if you do, then those associates won't leave. And so another thing is that a lot of attorneys do think about at some point doing part-time work or flex-time schedule, and may need various things, and don't necessarily want that to impact their ability to be a partner in the future. These sorts of things, and having those policies out there are important. And many firms actually have childcare centers now. Other firms have very generous leave policies for parents, and encourage for both men and women. And it's still, with men, a difficult thing. A lot of times when men will take leave for paternity leave, they'll come back and no one will give them work anymore. But I think that's changing to some extent. But definitely for women, it's considered fine. And it's a shame that it's still not a kind of a universal thing for men. But allowing those sorts of things for different sorts of people is very helpful. And if you're going to lose people when you take a bright line with that stuff, if you set up an environment where you show you care about people, overall, people are going to end up working much harder. And then the other thing is just encouraging people to do things outside of the office and different types of work. Many attorneys do want to do things outside of work. So some want to be part-time. Some may want to get involved in politics and other things. And so if a law firm allows that, then they're going to have an easier time recruiting. They're going to have an easier time holding on to people. And the people there are actually going to end up often working much harder than they might otherwise do. And then allowing the lawyers to make a humanitarian contribution. What that means is just, if the lawyer wants to do pro bono, then many times people need to feel like they're part of something greater than the actual work they're doing for clients. Allowing that to happen, if people want to, is perfectly fine. Law students always ask about it, so just saying we have this policy, even if a lot of people don't do that work, is perfectly fine if people have the time. And then allowing compensation to be adjusted. So sometimes people do not want to work the same hours, and allowing people to have different levels of hours, or to have different bonus pools depending on how many hours they work, is also an important thing. So giving attorneys the ability to choose how much they want to work is very important, and something that in different firms can be adjusted. And a lot of firms will do that based on titles. They'll have staff attorneys or managing attorneys and different people at different levels that are given powers and so forth, or given responsibility depending on that sort of thing. And that can be very helpful. And then just different benefits that can be used as rewards or hiring inducements. People love to talk about this stuff. And it's not, even though it's not that important to firms, it's important for people to feel like they're valued, and it makes them work harder. And paying for moving expenses or having really good health, disability, life insurance. I remember when I was in law school, there was a firm that would loan you money for a home down payment. That's a nice thing. Or giving you money for allowing you to take a vacation, or giving you a percentage of fees with new business, sabbaticals, allowing you to have continuing education fees, parking, health club memberships, other bonuses tied to firm profits and so forth. All that stuff can be very helpful, and it can make a big difference. And you don't know. Some people are motivated by something as simple as the quality of the health insurance. Other people are motivated by having a gym membership. There's all sorts of reasons that certain people will join firms. And the more of that stuff you have out there, even if it doesn't cost you a lot, the more likely people are to be interested in your firm. And then one of the things is that I think firms that are very successful are able to break up the seriousness of practicing law by things like softball teams or weekly social hours or different fun things that the firms do together, and where the people come together in a different way. And I think all that can be very helpful when law firms do that. And most law firms should do those things because it breaks up the kind of seriousness of working in the firm. A law firm that does these things, I think, will typically get a lot of resumes. If you make the firm attractive to associates and you do the things I'm talking about to hold on to, I think you'll be able to do much better as a firm. And without doing these sorts of things, it's very difficult, I think, for a law firm to remain very competitive. So I'm just going to take a quick break for 1 second, and then I will come back and I will answer as many questions as people have about this or any other type of hiring things this week. Okay, so let's get started with questions. And let's see, Michael, as many questions as you guys have, just let me know. Let's just see here. Plenty of time for questions. Okay, the first question is, how much should a law firm spend ongoing training for its attorneys, either as a percentage of revenue or of attorney salaries? I don't know. I think that the most important thing with it, the training is also good for clients. Clients like to know that the better your attorneys are and the more trained they are, the more effective they're going to be for clients as well. I certainly recommend a law firm spend as much money as they're comfortable doing on training for their attorneys. I think the most important thing I would recommend is just spending time with making sure you bake training into everything. So at our recruiting firm, for example, what we do with training is we have like weekly training sessions. So we do 90-minute trainings with the recruiters here like once a week. And then we also have typically biannual conferences where we'll do like a couple of days of training, like 2 to 3 days of training in a row. And so those are some of the things that we do for training. And it costs money. It costs money to bring people together, and then it also costs money to do all this stuff. But it's very helpful, and it makes a big difference in terms of the people feeling valued and how effective they are. And I don't know, you should think about it in terms of revenues, but I think that whatever it costs to schedule, make sure that there's people are being trained and you have ongoing training at least once a month and stuff. This can be very important. Okay, let's see here. Guys, any more questions you guys have? There's not a lot of questions today, which is fine, but let's see here. Can you suggest some good ways to market our firm's greater mission, or should we just put it on the website? So it depends on what your firm's greater mission is, but when any business, like there's all sorts of classes and stuff that are given for CEOs and for business owners. And I've certainly taken a lot of them in the past. And a lot of times what they'll talk about is they'll have to know if everybody in the firm knows what the firm stands for, everybody in the company knows what the firm stands for, then it's much easier. Then people are much more excited about doing their jobs. And if they know that we're here to be the greatest litigation firm ever, or we're here to be, to make sure that people get the best trust documents they possibly could get. If everybody has a certain mission that they understand and that everyone's behind that, then the firm is going to be much more effective. So putting it on your website and then continually reminding people of it on an ongoing basis. And I'll show you something that's fun here that we do for our company each week, like in our weekly meetings, is we start off our weekly meetings with reading our mission to attorneys. And so we have core values that we read. We say what our mission is, and our mission is about careers and lives. It's not just about that. And then we also have core values. And so the core values talk about being honest with information, about using the jobs, getting the best information, dominating the market with the most jobs, changing the rules of the game in terms of what is possible, using technology, being a team. And so everybody in our company knows what those rules are. And we talk about them, we recite them each week as a group. And then the other thing that we do that's cool is then we also have, and this is an example of just a weekly learning session where we talk about what firms are looking for when they're hiring people. Are we guaranteed to make money? Will we make money? And so forth. And then these are questions when the recruiters update us on things like, what am I going to do differently? So they go around. And then the final thing that we do is we have like a creed that we read each week. And so this is that someone new always reads this each week on the meetings, and we just rotate people reading this. And this is what we stand for, which is to get attorneys jobs. And if people aren't really trying to do this, then they don't belong here. And then our job is to connect with candidates and law firms and study the market. And then these are things that we resist and move away from. And so we do this every week. And so everybody in the company knows what we stand for, and everybody in the company understands that stuff. So when you're able to do that as a group with people, and when you have stuff that you stand for and the firm knows it, then it's very positive. So the teaching and that sort of thing can be very helpful for people each week. So it looks like that's all the questions I have, unless anybody has anything more. But I certainly appreciate all the questions. And we do this meeting each week. And I will be back again next week with a presentation. And I hope this one was helpful. There's also an article that goes along with it as well that you guys can read. And I think that's it. So thank you for showing up today.